Okie dokie, Smoky Panthers. Here we go. So this is going to be really quick. So help you. It will help you do the assignment on McCarthyism. So this is just a really quick overview on McCarthyism. This is super important information that you're going to get. You don't necessarily need to take notes on it, but you do need to pay attention because there's stuff in here that is going to help you do this. So here we go. McCarthyism, an American horror story. So we're worried about the spread of communism throughout the world. We have the Truman Doctrine to stop Soviet influence from taking over further in Europe, and it works for the most part. But then all of a sudden, we have communism. We have a communist revolution that breaks out in China, and then we're fighting a war in Korea, and it seems like it's everywhere. And then the fear becomes, what if it's here? And that's where our story begins. In 1950, this guy here, Joe McCarthy, who is a little known senator from Wisconsin, who is a major embarrassment, frankly, for the Republican Party, is looking to kind of cash in on this fear of communism that's gripping the United States. And he makes this comment, just a very, very simple, very innocent comment, just hoping to attract voters back in Wisconsin, that he knows of at least 52 Americans who are known communists working at high levels in the government. That immediately attracts the attention of national media, who are kind of playing off this fear in the United States that communists are everywhere. And all of a sudden, Joe McCarthy becomes a huge national figure. And he begins to inflate the numbers. No longer is it 52, it's actually 96, and then it's 150. And although he never shows the names of these suspected communists, he will wave papers around, say, these are the, on here I have the names of the suspected communists, and I'm going to go get them if you reelect me. In saying this and kind of feeding off of this communist hysteria, fear of communists in the country, Joe McCarthy is going to become, for a very brief period of time, the single most powerful person in the United States. Joe McCarthy, if he wants to, can completely destroy your life. So, going into the 1952 election, Republicans are desperate to get back in the White House. Remember, I told you guys, it's been 20 years since we had a Republican in the White House. The last time we had a Republican in the White House was 1932 when Herbie Hoover was there. So the Republicans are desperate to get back into the White House. And they, for the most part, let McCarthy go. They still don't like him. They still find him obnoxious. They still find him to be an embarrassment. But he's helping their cause because he's out hunting communists. And as long as he's hunting communists and he's not coming after the Republican Party and people support him, the public supports him in getting rid of communists in the government, the Republican Party is willing to let him go because it supports the election of President Eisenhower, the eventual election of President Eisenhower here, Vice President Nixon. And so they let McCarthy do his thing. And you can see here, here's a book that was written by Joe McCarthy, McCarthyism, The Fight for America, where he talks about why he's doing what he's doing, that he's fighting for America and its values, and he's going to get rid of communists in the United States. So the Republicans let him go. They still don't like him, but they let him go because he's helping their cause and help him get elected. Soon, McCarthy has his own committee in the Senate. It's to find and root out known or suspected communists. And he has investigators that work for him that go out and find suspected communists. And then they bring them forward to his committee, where McCarthy would bully them, he would yell at them, he would cajole them, he would trick them into admitting that they were communists. He would fabricate, just completely, totally make up evidence and lie about different things that he knew about them. And he would keep them in the spotlight. He would keep them on the hot seat until they finally broke and said, yes, I'm a communist. All they wanted was just to be gone, but this intense pressure and embarrassment that he was bringing to them by just constantly badgering them, um, would force them, lead them to admitting to being a communist. And he went after everyone. He went after housewives. He went after businessmen. He went after members of the clergy. He went after religious leaders. He went after teachers. He went after professors. Nobody was immune from McCarthy. And if he got your name, if somebody gave him your name that they thought you were a communist, he would launch this investigation into you. Very often he would fabricate stories. He would enlarge stories, make stories bigger than what they really were. And then he would just intimidate you and bully you into admitting it. And once you admitted it, your life was over. You would lose your job if you had one. You would lose your friends. You would lose your family, because if you're associated in any way with a communist, that was the attitude back then. If you're in any way associated with communists, then you were somehow a communist yourself, and you certainly didn't want that to happen to you. And so he just ruined hundreds of people's lives just by accusing them of being a communist. Oof. Republicans, again, for the Republican Party, for the most part, just let him do his thing because it was helping them. They were the anti-communist party. They were the ones who were, rooting out communism throughout the world and in the United States because of Joe McCarthy. They still didn't like him, but they let him go. And then McCarthy is going to go after the one thing that will make the Republican Party stand up and say, enough is enough. McCarthy is going to go after the military. Joe McCarthy makes a claim that the United States Army is full of communist sympathizers, especially United States military leadership are full of communists. And of course, this is very alarming to now President Eisenhower, who is a career military man. And it becomes very apparent if McCarthy is willing to go after the military, who is out containing the spread of communism and fighting against the spread of communism, if he's willing to go after them, there's no stopping who he'll go after. And this is at the point where everybody stiffens and said, that's enough. The military is going to be defended by a very famous lawyer. His name is Joseph Welch. These hearings, these McCarthy communist military hearings, are going to be broadcast on TV. It was the first real big event on TV. Remember, TV is very, very young and very new at this point. And this will be the first thing to really be broadcast on TV. And this is must-see TV. If you had a TV, you were watching this. And this was the first time that Americans really saw Joe McCarthy in action. They certainly had knew of him. They certainly had seen him. They probably had heard him speak at some point, but they had never really seen him in action. And they saw him as a bully and as a tyrant and as a somebody who worked through intimidation and accusation and just not a very savory character. And it was during this time that the lawyer for the Army was able to expose Joe McCarthy live on TV as a fraud. That he had doctored photos, you can see in the cartoon there. He had written a fake letter. He had all sorts of evidence, quote unquote evidence, that he had invented. And he had been exposed live on TV. And at this point, Joe McCarthy loses all support and all standing in the American public. He will be censored by the United States Senate, basically meaning you did something really, really bad, and they're punishing him for it. Joe McCarthy will be voted out of office in 1956. Joe McCarthy will die of cirrhosis of the liver. He literally drank himself to death in 1957. So here's the legacy, McCarthy. You get this term called McCarthyism, and you still hear it used today. McCarthyism simply means that people are assumed to be guilty simply because there's an accusation. There's no evidence, there's no proof to prove that they are guilty of whatever it is that you're accusing them of. You say it, and automatically they're guilty. That's McCarthyism, and you still use it. You still hear it used today. People say so and so is a tyrant, or so and so is a bully, or so and so is a communist, or so and so is a terrorist. You have no evidence, but just your saying it makes people believe that, and that's known as McCarthyism. Very much like the Salem witch trials that took place in the 1600s in Salem, Massachusetts, where women and men in the village were just accused of being witches. And just because they were accused of being a witch, they were a witch. And they were executed. Many were executed simply because there was an accusation. There was no proof. That's McCarthyism. And so that's what we're going to deal with today. So let me show you the assignment. You're going to do something called a history lab. And if we were in person, it works much, much better than being remote and in the hybrid and the environment that we're in today. But this is where we're at, so this is how we got to do it. So a history lab is very much like a scientific lab. You're going to come up with a hypothesis. This is what I think. And then you're going to continuously test that hypothesis as you work through evidence and data. So here we go. So here's some background reading about what's going on in the United States. That our fear of communism, often an irrational fear of communism, and our fear of it spreading, throughout Europe and throughout Asia, and now here. There's HUAC, which we talked about the other day, which was the first anti-communist organization, anti-communist government organization to root out, find communists and get them out of government. And then McCarthy comes along. So what you're going to do is you're going to work through a series of documents, and you're going to analyze them as to do the documents seem to show that communism and McCarthy's efforts to get rid of communism, were they valid? Were they correct based on that particular document? You're going to use your knowledge of text. Text is, that's what the document says, right? It says it right there. This is what it says. There's no question. The text says this. In context, the bigger picture, right? What's going on that's affecting this particular moment or this particular event? So text, what does it say literally on the paper, on the document? And then context, what's the larger the larger picture that's taking place? So you're going to use text, context as you go through these documents to figure out, were the fears of communism legitimate, and was McCarthy justified in what he did? So those are the two running questions you're going to answer. There's a series of documents here. Okay. Answer the questions, answer the documents here, or the questions about the document. Here's our two running documents. Explain how this document supports, does not support the anti-communist fears of the 1940s, 1950s, right? You're going to answer that question just on that document, not your opinion. What does the document say? Does this document support the anti-communist fears? Does it not support? And then explain why. Don't just say yes or no, right? Tell me yes or no, and then explain to me why. And then here's the other running question you're going to answer. Based on this document, do you think McCarthy was or was not justified in his pursuit of communism? Okay, again, not your personal opinion based on this document. Do you think, right, according to this document, was McCarthy justified or not justified going after the communists? And again, don't just say, yes, he was, or no, he wasn't, right? Explain. So you work through these documents. The first couple of questions are questions specifically for that document. The last two questions are running questions. Does it support or not support anti-communist fears? Does it justify or not justify McCarthy's actions? Okay, there's several documents that you're going to go through here, as you can see, all pertaining somehow, some way back to communism and the fear of it. Okay, a lot of documents. They're very short, though. And then there's political cartoon here. Okay, remember, political cartoons say a lot more than what they seem to say, right? There's layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. So this is a political cartoon from late 1940 where there's a car out of control and it seems to be running people over. It's up on the sidewalk and you can see it's HUAC. The car represents HUAC, Committee for Un-American Affairs Activities or whatever. So that's HUAC is the car and it's out of control. It's running over people. And the guy in the car says, it's okay. We're hunting communists, right? Don't worry about what we're doing. Everything we're doing is fine. This is okay because we're going after communists. Answer the questions, right? Our two running questions there. And then here's another cartoon. Okay, there's a teacher here and there's the anti-communist committees that they're out there searching for it, communists, and the teacher's got a map and on the map is the USSR. Well, it's obvious that she's a communist then, right? And they're going through her trash, they're finding papers that she threw away, they're going through her desk. The interrogator asked the teacher, oh, so you read books, huh? You know who reads books? Communists read books. That's who. Again, answer the questions. Here's an ad that was taken out in a high school yearbook, Grandview Heights High School Yearbook, Grandview Heights, Ohio. It's from 1951. And it's an ad telling high school students how and what to tell a communist. And if you read through the text here, it tells you this is how you spot a communist. And then this is what you tell a communist because they all look the same and they all act the same. So this is how you spot a communist, and then this is what you tell a communist. Answer the questions. And then here's the final thing that you're going to do. Okay, you're going to give your final analysis of McCarthyism. Okay, was McCarthy justified in his pursuit of communists against the United States based on what you know, based on what you've seen in the documents? Okay, to answer this question, right? Again, I don't want one sentence, right? It's not going to cut it. I want you to tell me, yes, you think he was right. No, I don't think he was right. And use at least four, as in more than three, four, 1, 2, 3, 4 documents to support your opinion. And also give your analysis of those documents. Okay. What do the documents mean? Okay. Why don't just assume the reader, me, is going to interpret the documents the same way you did. You got to tell me, I think he was or he wasn't justified, and there's this document. This document is about blah, 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 and here's why that's important. Here's what that document really means. Here's how that document supports what I think. Okay. Remember, 1 or 2 or 3 sentences is not going to do this, especially if you have to use 4 documents, right? You got to explain the document, analyze the document. How does it support your answer? Okay. That's what you're doing here. I know it's a lot. Good news is you've got all day today you will have all day Friday. This is your Friday assignment as well. And it's due your next class period. Okay. So either next Monday or next Tuesday is when this is due. Okay. I know it's a lot. If you have any questions, problem, concerns, conundrums, make sure you let me know. Zoom link will be open all day on Friday. Okay. Make sure you check in on Friday and do the attendance. And then if you have questions or whatever, the Zoom link will be open from 8 o'clock and it'll be open pretty much all day Friday. This is your assignment today. This is your assignment for Friday. It is due Monday or Tuesday of next week. All right, good luck. May the force be with you. You guys have a great weekend. Stay out of jail. Peace, love, and hair grease.